What's up, guys? Dan here from BeGameCharacter.com with another edition of Q&A Tuesday. We got some good questions today, so let's get right to them. On Google+, Mohammed Kanoon asked, how important is diet for becoming a game character? Pretty important, at least aesthetically speaking, but also performance-wise as well. Obviously, if you want to look like a game character, generally speaking, in shape and, cut, stuff like that. Diet's most important. As far as deciding how your body is shaped, diet's the most important. And also how you perform is very heavily based on diet. If you, eat crap all day and you don't, even if you hate your calories, but if you just eat garbage all day or the wrong balance of macros, it's going to go pretty poorly for you. You won't have energy, you'll be in crappy mood, you'll have poor performance, stuff like that. So diet is really, really important. Possibly one of the most important things. I am a light yet athletic build with a high metabolism, and I sometimes find myself taking advantage of it after I realized I chomped down a whole bag of chips and a can of juice. Any tips for crushing cravings of junk food? Basically, the way to crush cravings for junk food is to make junk food really unavailable to you. Don't have it in your house. Don't have it easily available. If you go to a store, it's kind of difficult, but generally the way I stick to stuff at the store is just to make a shopping list beforehand and don't deviate from the shopping list at all. And I made an actual written list, not just like an in-your-head list, but an actual written list. Other ways is to just, make sure that your diet is balanced and full enough that you're not really really, really hungry all the time, because it's super easy to just grab and go. And the other option is to bring grab and go into it, is to have grab and go food that is good for you. I've always got a tub of cooked chicken breast sitting in my refrigerator, and that's super easy to pull out and just snack on. You can make kale chips. You can make protein muffins. Going to do a recipe on protein muffins soon. You can find a whole bunch online. Stuff like that. There's lots of good snack foods that you can make yourself, and even some stuff that you can buy, but don't be tricked just by stuff that says healthy on the label. Remember, just because something's organic or something is all natural doesn't mean it's actually good for you, or that it's low calorie or high calorie if that's what you're looking for, or whatever. Don't believe labeling. Look at the actual nutrition facts. And what tips can you give for a skinny guy with a high metabolism to gain a bit more weight for working out? Tips. Eat more food. As dumb as that sounds, eat more food. If you're really skinny, your lean muscle mass is probably most of your own body weight. So shoot for anywhere from 0.7 to 1 full gram of protein for every pound that you weigh. Make sure you eat lots of carbohydrates, complex carbohydrates if possible. Brown rice and beans is a fantastic meal. You can flavor it a bazillion different ways, and it's got good nutrients in it. It's got lots of fiber. It's got lots of protein. It's also very high in calories, and it gives you lots of calories, gets you bigger. Dairy products also very good. Olive oil is something that's very easy to add to just about anything. It's basically pure fat, and it's I think it's 110 calories, 150 calories a tablespoon, something like that. So that's a real good thing that you can just mix in with anything. If you're really looking to gain some weight, just throw a tablespoon of olive oil into everything you eat. You'll gain weight like that. But of course, you have to be working out at the same time. Generally speaking, you want to shoot for, a caloric surplus of somewhere around 250 to 300 calories more than your body needs. And if you need more information on how to figure that out, go ahead and check out Macros in You, or just go ahead and grab The Care and Feeding of You, which is the book that I wrote specifically for that. So go check that out. I'll post a link in the description below. Next up from the forums, we have Keno33. What inspires you to keep writing the blog and trying to help all of us? Honestly, a couple of things. First of all, it's habit. We've talked about habits before, all right? I've been doing it for so long, it feels weird not to. Okay, so that's really cool. Building habits helps you push through stuff, anytime. Also, most of all, it's just you guys, your support and your outreach and all that. It's really, you don't know how awesome it makes me feel just to get like a single message or a comment like, hey, I love the blog, or hey, it's done so much for me, or stuff like that. I love things like that. I live for that. It feels awesome. I'm so happy to help people that when people come to me and tell me, hey, you helped me out, it feels great. It really does. So I mean that I would say is the fire that keeps me going more than anything else, because it feels awesome to help people, and it's great to hear about it when I have helped people. What is your opinion on current nutritional trends and guidelines in the U.S. where it seems they're encouraging us to eat less than 2,000 calories per day? Well, it depends. I mean, some people should be eating less than 2,000 calories a day. Not all people, but some people. Women usually have a lower caloric requirement than men, just because they're smaller, first of all. The exception being when they're pregnant. But even when they're pregnant, I mean, you don't actually, scientifically speaking, you don't need to eat that much more food when you're pregnant than when you're not. You know, and I'm going to sound like an asshole here, but some women use that as an excuse. They're like, oh, I'm pregnant, I can eat whatever I want. You don't have to. I mean, I think, don't quote me on this because I think my numbers might be off, but I'm pretty sure, medically speaking, you need like an extra 300 calories a day. And I think like another extra 300 or 400 calories a day when you're breastfeeding if you're doing that. So, we're getting off topic here. Eat less than 2,000 calories per day. For some people it's necessary. For other people it's not. It's difficult as, you know, a country to tell people how much they should or shouldn't eat. And I appreciate the idea that the U.S. is enforcing, you know, healthy eating habits. We have obesity on the rise, and despite what anybody might tell you, it's not healthy to be overweight, especially significantly so. But it's difficult because you can't apply a one-size-fits-all caloric requirement to everyone. You can say, hey, you should be eating your maintenance level, and if you're overweight, you should eat below your maintenance level. That's fine. But to a lot of people, they don't know what that means. And the FDA only has so much educational ability and so much funds. I mean, I'm sure if we dumped, you know, millions of dollars into the FDA, they'd be able to come out with all kinds of, you know, awesome guides as to how to eat and stuff. But I mean, let's be honest, we're not going to do that. And the other issue, and this is another issue, is the whole idea of lobbying. I'm very politically active, and we're not going to go too far in that here, but the original food pyramid, believe it or not, part of the reason why grains were such a huge part of the original food pyramid was because the original food pyramid was actually researched and funded by grain companies that, you know, profit off of grains. Shocker. So, generally speaking, you shouldn't need the government to tell you how much you should or shouldn't eat. But I will say that scientifically speaking, I'm willing to trust them a lot more than I'm willing to trust most fad diets and nutritions out there. So, I mean, take that what you will. I always think I got the best advice on food anyway, so go check out the blog. What did the original Ezio workout consist of before you changed it? I have to try and remember that. So what Ken was referring, if you haven't seen the previous videos, I was asked, you know, what was the toughest workout ever, and it was the earliest version of the Ezio workout, which basically the highest level of is just like, what's the most ridiculous workout I can come up with, and I put it down there. It was basically what the Ezio workout is now, but it was a 6-day schedule where you only got one rest day. And on top of that, you were doing strength basically every other day and cardio every single day. So you do like some cardio on the off days and more cardio on the on days. And I think the strength workout had like 2 extra exercises in it, and the cardio had like an extra exercise in it. Basically, I mean, after a week you were toast. And if you did more than a week of it and you didn't manage to injure yourself, trying to do another week of it would probably be pretty bad for you. There is such a thing as overtraining, and that was it. So unless you're like Olympic class, you know, what have you, probably not a good idea to try and resurrect that workout. That's it from Keno33. Up next is Vincent Madden. Do you have any advice for an aspiring writer? Wow, good question. Right. I know that sounds kind of straightforward and simple, but write and write and write some more and keep writing. And the other thing is, don't just write the same thing all the time. You can find a lot of different places online to look for writing prompts. There's a subreddit for it. There's also, what was the name of that? I have to see this now. Oh, wait, that's it. Writing excuses. I think that's the name of it. Let me see here. Let's see. Writing excuses. Yeah, okay. So, check out writingexcuses.com. It's a really awesome writing podcast / blog / what have you. And it's I mean, it tends to be tailored a little more towards like fantasy and sci-fi realm, but honestly, a lot of the stuff they talk about is fantastic regardless. I love listening to Writing Excuses, and it's a really cool show to listen to. And it depends on what genre you're looking for, but the other option you can do is also just start a small blog and publish online, and just ask people for feedback. Don't necessarily take them all to heart, but take some people's feedback to heart. But the best thing to do is just write and write and write and write and write and write and write. They always say that your first novel is never the one that's going to get published. They also say that sometimes your 10th novel is not the one that's going to get published. I don't know if you're going for short form or long form or whatever, but the best thing to do is just write all the time. Try and write every single day. Write about everything under the sun. Look up information on writing. Writing is a skill to develop, like anything else. So you can find information on, how to improve your sentences, how to improve your, writing style, how to improve your grammatical skills, how to improve your story presentation, stuff like that. So go look that up, because there's tons of info out there. So you should be spending part of your time every day writing, and then you're spending part of your time every day reading about writing. And then in your free time, you should just read stuff. Read tons of stuff, good stuff, bad stuff, what have you. Read the classics, read pulpy teen fiction novels, read whatever, but just read a lot, because that's the other thing you can do to really improve your writing. Given the rising popularity of CrossFit, what's your opinion on it? As so many people think it's a fad, but I personally find the fusion of cardio, strength, and power training very similar to martial arts and boxing, where you basically have to do whatever is thrown at you. A lot of the workouts on the blog would be kind of CrossFit style workouts. I do a lot of bodyweight stuff, some assisted bodyweight stuff. Cardio is involved in almost every workout. So, and I also do a lot of high intensity interval training, because it's a great thing for people who don't have tons of time and want to see big results. So, CrossFit is a style I admire. It's the idea of you're not necessarily going to be the best power lifter out there or the fastest guy running, but you're going to be really good at a lot of stuff. I like that idea. CrossFit as a culture is something else entirely. First of all, not all CrossFit gyms, I refuse to call them boxes, not all CrossFit gyms are safe. Somebody who just goes and gets their CrossFit certification and doesn't have any kind of certifications or whatever, they can really hurt people. CrossFit is really intense, especially at the higher levels. And if you don't actually know what you're doing, if you're not a trained kinesiologist or personal trainer, you don't have experience, instructing others and working out, you can really hurt people. On top of that, CrossFitters have a tendency to do stuff without scientific reason for it, like switching up their workouts almost every single time they work out. Not that all CrossFit gyms do this. There are good gyms out there that do CrossFit that don't do this, but I'm speaking now to the bad CrossFit, what to watch out in CrossFit. The idea of switching up workouts every single time you do it, there's no point to it. You're going to suffer decreased performance. Stay on at least a 4-week, if not an 8-week cycle. If you want to change your workouts on a regular basis, that's fine. But do the same workout for 4 weeks or 8 weeks and see some good results from it, and then move on to something else. Build up those plateaus and get yourself solid in certain areas, because the idea of muscle confusion being that you need to do a different workout every single time you work out is stupid. Just the overall intensity is a lot for someone to take in if they've never worked out before. And again, inexperienced CrossFit instructors will just be like, hey, do this awesome, crazy, high-intensity interval session, and somebody's going to do it, and they're going to get, they're going to get sick, they're going to throw up, they're going to injure their joints, they're going to pull a muscle, they're going to do all kinds of nasty stuff. So CrossFit is cool, the idea behind CrossFit is cool, but I have an issue with a lot of CrossFit gyms and a lot of the stuff that they do. I guess that would be the best way to say it. So the concept is cool. CrossFit, the culture, and some CrossFit gyms, no. What are your thoughts on the practicality of trying to dual wield swords, etc.? So dual wielding blades is something that, historically speaking, was never done like on the battlefield that we know of, especially dual wielding full-size swords. And I'm talking about like in war type environments where you got hordes of soldiers and hordes of soldiers, for a couple of reasons. First of all, the sword / mace / single-handed warhammer / whatever was usually the sidearm. It wasn't the main weapon. I mean, we know in video games and all kinds of cool like war movies and stuff like that, you always get the hero fighting with the sword, and sometimes the big two-handed sword, or sometimes the sword and shield or whatever. The sword, for the most part, was your sidearm. That was the thing that you didn't use all that much unless you had to. If you were on horseback, more often than not, you were wielding a spear. Or, in the case of the Huns, they had archers, which were very effective. And if you were on foot, typically a two-handed weapon, a pole axe or something like that. Or if you go in earlier in Grecian times, you had your phalanx with your shield and your spear over like that. So in war type situations, it basically wasn't a thing. If you were a soldier in an army, the odds of you being given standard issue, dual wielding, anything, basically there's no historical context for it. But if we skip ahead to dueling, dueling particularly in Italy and France, back when the small sword became very popular, when people stopped wearing armor, for the most part, or at least heavy plate armor, you saw a lot more possibility for dual wielding. Particularly, they called it Florentine dueling, and you would fight with usually a smaller blade and a larger blade, like a dagger or something like that, and then a small sword in your other hand or something along those lines. So, versus a one-on-one combatant, dual wielding can be a little more interesting, can have some more purpose. You also see this back in gladiatorial times, back ancient Rome. You'd have people that would fight with a net and what is that three-pronged thing? Trident. That's it. A net and a trident. Wow, I can't believe I forgot that. So you would see that. So basically, in one-on-one combat, you do see historical instances of dual wielding, multiple weapons, one in each hand. In battlefield combat, the closest you saw was usually a shield and a sword. For a number of reasons, mainly that in a group, it's not practical to have, make use of both hands with weaponry. You want a defensive and an offensive capability. And the other being that there's not that much of a benefit to dual wielding. I mean, you can make the argument of attacking from multiple directions, but first of all, our brains don't really work that well like that. And second of all, if you're attacking with both weapons at once, you're leaving yourself open to counterattack. And you just have to hope that you're faster than the other guy. There are uses for trapping and stuff like that, which is where the dagger comes in, or the net, or something along those lines, where you can trap the opponent's blade with one, parry with one, attack with the other. But in that instance, a shield is almost more useful. One of the only reasons that the dagger became more popular is because carrying a shield around with you everywhere was kind of weird. But if you carried a sword and a dagger both attached to your hip, that was socially acceptable. That was okay at the time. But carrying a big heavy shield, everywhere with you was, kind of useless. The other thing that we could talk about is in Scotland, the targe, which was a small shield that was typically held with a handle here and strapped to the arm here as well. This was a small shield that, targe means target basically, and they would have a spike on the front here, and then sometimes they would hold the Scottish ballock knife right here in their hand so that the point would extend below the shield, and then they'd have the basket-hilted broadsword over here. And in that instance, that's basically dual wielding with a shield and a dagger and a sword, because Scotsmen are crazy, and it's awesome. But even that, there's not that much historical context for it. It's tough to find, writings about it that, this actually happened. Most of the time, the targe was just used as a shield. So, wow, I spent a long time on this question. So that's my thoughts on dual wielding. And I find it's pretty consistent with a lot of other people. If you go watch Lindy Beige's channel on YouTube, go check him out. He's awesome. Does tons of stuff on, actual medieval fighting methods and stuff like that. And it's mostly historically true. Now, that doesn't mean that dual wielding isn't badass and awesome. I mean, let's be honest. You're not going to walk around with a sword in modern era for the most part anyway. So learning how to do really cool stuff with a blade in each hand is not a waste of your time. I mean, people look at stuff like, oh, that's not realistic. Who cares? It's awesome. So take that as you will. A final question from Vincent Madden, now that we spent like a day and a half on the dual wielding question. What are your favorite character workouts from each of the 3 archetypes on the blog? Each of the 3. I've been asked my favorite workout, but each of the 3. I would say my favorite rogue workout would be, I would say the Ryu Hayabusa workout. My favorite fighter workout, I think, would probably be the Kratos workout. And then my favorite tank workout would be a tie between either Braum, who I know I've mentioned before, or probably Chris Redfield. Not that any of the other workouts aren't great, but those are just my 2 personal favorites. So yeah, there you go. Ryu Hayabusa, Kratos, and tie between Braum and Chris. So that's it. Those are all our questions for today. Hope you enjoyed this Q&A Tuesday. I need more questions for next week, so make sure you ask them in the comments below or go post it over in the forums. I'll post the link, or just reach out to me on social media or email, whatever. As always, remember to live boldly, change the world, and continue to be awesome.